Hey everyone, what's going on? I hope you are feeling good today. My name is Mav, and this is Mav Magic. On this channel, I like to talk about lots of different things. We talk about spirituality, skepticism, mental health, neurodivergence, and gender stuff, which is what we're talking about today. It's been a little while since I've given the people an update, so I figured this was a good time to do so. I forgot to put my chapstick on before we started, so I have to do that now. Okay. Okay, so tomorrow it's the 19th today. So the 20th of February will be my 2-year anniversary on T. I'm pretty excited about that. And so this video, I'm going to just like give you all an update. Hopefully we get to have some chit chat about like the concept of gender, like in and of itself. And that's pretty much it. Another thing is I'm aware that my camera seems to be off today, and I'm not exactly sure why. So be patient with me with that. And yeah, I hope that it's not as bad on your end as it is on mine, but we'll see. Okay. And I also might try to use a different camera for this video because this one is like distractingly lagging, but I don't know. Give me a second. I also have to turn my heater down, which I forgot to do before I started. All right, let's get started. I'm like super distracted. I want to see if this camera, okay, this camera doesn't lag as much. It's like really terrible quality. So I hate that. I hate this quality so much. And that's why I usually use my other camera, but I'm distracted by how like awful the lag was. So I'm just gonna do this for today. So yeah, you get to see me at this like kind of awkward angle. All right, so I hope that, I kind of want to like, I wish I could just like restart this live stream, honestly, and start from the beginning and try some other stuff. But here we are. We're just gonna do this. We're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna prop you guys up though, and put you at a higher place because I like that when I'm doing these kinds of things. Anyway, I'm gonna chat while I do that so that you guys aren't super bored while you're watching this. Okay. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right. If you just can't hear, I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera, so I'm going to use a crappier one. All right, that's better. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about transition stuff today, and I have lots of notes. If you notice, I'm reading. That's what's going on, obviously. And I'll do more of an introduction stuff, later, and more people show up. But all right, so this year was pretty cool. I started off the year, I guess we started in February when my actual anniversary date is. I started the year healing from top surgery. So at that point, I would have been about like 2 months healing, or 2 months post-op at that time. And yeah, obviously it was pretty uncomfortable during the earlier healing periods. And I was like still adjusting to like getting used to feeling what it was like inside, like almost it felt like a new body. And that took a little bit of time for me to adjust, but I figured it out after a little bit. I had some other like complications and issues with the healing process as well. And I have a whole big video where I talked about that. So if you want to know more about that, you can check that video out. But I have basically, long story short, just some like hypersensitivity in my chest post-op. that's showing up. But at the same time, some like numbness in certain spaces of my chest. A lot of these things are like they are normal when the nerves are reconnecting things for a lot of people. So I'm not super, obviously, it's nothing really to be concerned about. My surgeon knows about it and everything, and he's not concerned. But yeah, this year, a lot of this year was figuring out top surgery and all of that stuff and healing from that. And that was a lot of the massive changes, I guess, that I had this year. I also other, I guess, major like medical transition related updates would be that I um, shifted my like dose of testosterone a couple of times. Um, in the beginning of the summer, I was okay. So there's a lot of layers to this stuff. So some of this stuff is gonna be a little bit long-winded, but I hope that it will help you guys understand like my mindset and what was going on. Um, yeah. So when I was first like adjusting to top surgery, I was dealing with a lot of like internalized transphobia and stuff that was coming up. And also, I was like doing some things that were like not wise for me, like consuming a lot of transphobic content at the time. So yeah, it just put me in a bad spot. And yeah, it caused me to do a lot of like hyper obsessive reflection on myself. And yeah, I became a little bit like insecure about like presenting more masculine. And then I reduced my testosterone dose and I was like, okay, let me just like chill with these changes that I've already had, see how it feels to adjust for a little while. And that was okay for a while. But what actually ended up happening is throughout the summer, I started getting like more and more dysphoric and felt really like uncomfortable in my body and it felt really weird. And I wasn't sure why. I just like looking at my face, like something felt off. And I just wasn't sure what was going on. And what I realized was happening is because I lowered my dose, I essentially like was taking half of the dose that I was already taking, which is already like such a small dose to begin with. Anyway, so I went on like a really small dose, and I was taking it like every other week, so a lot less frequently. And so a lot of my other changes, some of them started I started losing some of my masculine changes that I was having. So like I think my face started to change, like shift and got a little bit, just shifted a little bit. Um, I felt like my body had shifted as well. Um, so I was feeling uncomfortable and I realized that like I was dysphoric because I was kind of like feminizing my body again, I guess. Um, and when I went back up on testosterone, I started feeling a lot better. I felt really confused during the summer because I thought that I was just dysphoric about like the changes that I had already had. Um, but that really wasn't it. Like I was just dysphoric by my face like shifting back again. And I don't know if this is like a proven thing by any means, or if this is just an anecdotal thing that people talk about, but apparently like the first couple of like maybe like year or so of being on testosterone, your face can like get wider and like puffy a little bit. But then when you're on it for a little while, it kind of like sinks into itself a little bit more and you kind of see the jaw shape, the more masculine jaw shape start showing up. Um, and that had happened to me before. Like I had kind of noticed I was getting that like more angular shape in my face, but when I went low on the lower dose, um, my face started like kind of getting in that weird puffy stage again. I'm just kind of trying to explain this stuff a little bit more. So it got a little bit puffy again. I got super uncomfortable. Right. So going back up again put me at a good space. I feel like much more comfortable now with myself and where I'm at with the dose of testosterone I'm on. I'm on like kind of the usual dose that I was on before. That was pretty good in terms of figuring that out. Now I know more about myself. I now I understand more about like what makes me feel comfortable in my body. And that feels right and really nice to know. Yeah. So that's pretty much most of the medical transition related changes, I would say. I guess if I'm going to be talking about other medical stuff, really like top surgery is, I guess I'm realizing that top surgery is kind of like, it really just changes a lot of my life in only in the way that now like scar care is a part of my life. So like before top surgery, like I could fully ignore that this area of my body and just like shove it away or something like that. But after top surgery, you have to pay attention to your body. You have to pay attention to your scar lines. You have to pay attention to the muscle that you're developing. There is possibilities to develop other issues in the future um, when nerves start reconnecting and stuff like that. So yeah, I have to kind of stay vigilant, and I'm just particularly sensitive, just as a person in general. And like I said, I'm having some hypersensitivity in my chest. So my chest is needy, and so I need to kind of like massage it often and be present with it, and that tends to help um, everything feel better generally. Um, if you're here chilling out, I hope that you have something to drink, and that you're having a good day. All right, so I have a couple of other sections that we're going to go through. And all right, so I'm going to start talking about so dysphoria. I'm also trying to like get timestamps because I think that's helpful. So I'm gonna start talking about dysphoria, but first, hi Micah. Thank you for explaining things and having conversations about things like this, Matt. I'm hopefully going to be starting tea soon, and really happy to hear what you have to say. Yay, very exciting! Thank you so much for being here and joining in. It is kind of scary. It was really scary for me to start. Like it's exciting and scary because there's changes and like yeah. Also, when I started tea, if you haven't watched any of my older videos, I just was like, it was a stressful time in my life to start testosterone. So like I was kind of a wreck for the first couple of months because I was going through a lot of like a lot of personal emotional stuff. But being able to transition through that helped me, right? So like if I would have had to deal with dysphoria and like not being on testosterone during all of those things, it would have been more difficult. That is just my personal experience. So I hope that things are helpful for you in the future. All right. So yeah, so a lot of things in I guess my dysphoria have kind of shifted. And this is just a helpful video because it also just kind of falls in line with a lot of post to top surgery things as well. So these are the ways I guess my dysphoria has changed over this past second year of being on T and a year after being or after getting top surgery. So one of the first things is that like I started embracing my facial hair more. Being non-binary, I at first I guess had like a vision of what I wanted to look like, and like facial hair was not a part of that picture, and I'd always been uncomfortable with that. I think that a lot of that had to do with me finding it really important to kind of like really fit that like feminine image in before. And so like things like my facial hair or like extra body hair, I was like really ashamed of and would try to manage and get rid of and all that stuff. So I kind of was like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna like continue to not do that. But then something really interesting happened. I was on T and I like I at first saw facial hair growing in and would pretty consistently shave it. And then I let it grow out a little bit mostly because maybe I was at home for a while or something or didn't need to go out or whatever. And then I realized, this is not that bad. I actually don't quite mind this too much. And it freaked me out for a while. I think that I can be, like I said, I'm super sensitive. I can read way too deep into everything. On the outside, I'm the person that's like, yeah, like gender is this fluid thing. It doesn't matter how you present yourself and whatever. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I like having facial hair, that means like I am a trans man. And like now I have to like figure out my whole identity again. Um, but that's just not the case. Like I've obviously done a lot of reflection, and like I'm just a non-binary person who just likes looking like this. And that's really the end of the story, pretty much. So yeah, I've calmed down a lot about that. And so after I figured that out, I was able to lean more into it. And yeah, it really just started to feel like natural, like it was right. Like I would look in the mirror and like be shaving my face and I'd be like, this feels normal, like this feels right to do this kind of stuff, and to take care of facial hair or something like that. And yeah, I just am like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna lean into it then. um, and that's been great. Other things that have helped me even embrace my facial hair was my wife got me a like a beard trimming kit for Christmas, and using that has really helped. I've been able to like figure out like what length of facial hair feels good for me. I'm really into this like uh, pretty short, like stubbly looking look type of thing going on. So if I could let it grow thicker than this, um, but you know, every like week and a half or something, I kind of trim it up a little bit, and it feels pretty good. It's starting to like, it's weird because in this light, I'm starting to see it like crawl up the side of my face, which I don't normally see. Um, and the men in my family have like a ton of facial hair. So this was not a surprise to me by any means. And like I said initially, I had planned even to like do pursue electrolysis and laser hair removal and everything. That was my plan going into taking testosterone. But things changed, and I feel different. So and it's also cool. Like my wife really likes it too, and that just, I don't know, it makes me feel nice. And yeah, there's a lot. There's just so many things that I could talk about, and it's good that this is live stream because I'm just gonna chit chat. And then also, if y'all are here and you have questions about stuff or questions about your own experience or whatever, I am here for that. So this is a vibe. This is a chill spot, by the way. All right. So yeah, I went back and forth on facial hair, but now I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot with it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I might change. I might change it up in the future. Oh, another thing that's important to mention is that another reason why I started embracing my facial hair was that when I would shave my face, I would feel like really feminine, and I would feel like my face would look really feminine, and that made me feel really dysphoric. So yeah, I was just like, maybe I'll just keep a little bit of like a shadow because it kind of like gives an illusion. And I swear, people, I still get misgendered with facial hair. It's not like I can't like it's I if I, like I've said before, if I'm quiet and I don't move or talk, then like I can kind of like, but as soon as I like talking and animating myself, like game over. People um give me like weird looks in the grocery store when I start like talking out loud, or because I sometimes when I get excited, I talk in a really high pitched voice. So that actually does kind of fit in with the next dysphoria area, which is my voice, and talking all high pitched. It does make me feel kind of uncomfortable a little bit. It was so funny because I listened to this video of myself talking in like way before I started testosterone. I didn't do like this is my voice update. I I did like a mini version of that and on this weird app, and like the app got corrupted and I lost those videos. They were like small little update videos or something like that. But I found a video of myself talking pre-transition. I was like taking a weird video for like a review I was doing for something. Anyway, and I saw, oh my gosh, it was like a little chipmunk. It was adorable. And then it made me feel better. Like, okay, cool. My voice has changed quite a lot. And my wife even said I changed my voicemail. Maybe I don't even know how, maybe a year ago or something. And she was like, you should change it again because your voice has changed a lot since the last time you recorded it. So yeah, those things make me feel good, but at the same time, I do want my voice to drop a little bit more. I do oftentimes, if I'm in public, especially with people that I don't know, I throw my voice down quite a bit. I try to kind of speak from my chest a little bit more. Just makes me feel more comfortable. I'm trying to be a little bit more intentional about it. And that also makes me feel annoyed and frustrated that I do that. I think it's because I feel like annoyed about the concept of passing and trying to like be a certain way to like feel like safe and like fit in with kind of the social perception of masculinity and whatever. Because being perceived as a feminine or a masculine woman is, to me, feels a lot safer than presenting as a feminine man. Um, yeah, I feel like the looks you get are different. Even like small things, like in it, like living in a small town like this, and like me looking like a dudeish person with like even like a little choker. Like I feel like people linger at me a little bit more. But I'm also a black person, and like there's so many things that make me stick out like a sore thumb in this area, which is hopefully why we'll move in a couple years. But you know, those little things. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that I can talk about, and even in terms of like, yeah, so like obviously like race, I think plays a difference in my experience as a trans person than it would for a person of a different race. For example, like I talk to my wife, like she's white, obviously she doesn't like, not obviously, but she's white, so she doesn't know a lot about a lot of this stuff, but she tries her best to learn and she educates herself. But even little things like um, now, like going into stores, like I don't put my hood up really. Because that's like to me. And okay, for like that, those were things that like I would hear my dad telling my brothers to do. Like, so you want to make sure that you're keeping this, I guess, non-threatening appearance. Right. So that's a thing. And then also, so that, yeah, so me kind of like appearing more masculine means that like I might have to also like change my behavior in certain ways. And um, I sometimes feel like more of a draw towards like the need to do things to like feel safe or kind of like contribute to the feeling of safety. I hope that makes sense to people. But yeah, that's kind of annoying. But it's also the only way to like train my voice to get a little bit lower. Voice training is a thing. I obviously have not done it, but I could. We'll see. All right. So what else? Also, after top surgery, I've noticed a little bit more um, like hip and like thigh butt related dysphoria. Um, it like comes and goes. And I think kind of the same as before, but it is a little bit more noticeable now that my chest is gone. Um, like I don't know, because like sometimes I really do like the the ability to kind of like have both a masculine and feminine appearance, um, like privately, but I feel like when I'm out in public, I don't like that as much. Um, but yeah, that's I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. For example, kind of like the energy of I have not done this, but it's the energy of like dressing like a super like tough guy in public, but like wearing lingerie underneath. Like that is the vibe that I feel like maybe as a person. Not always as a person, but for this example right now, today in this moment. I don't like to commit to any of these analogies so that nobody gets the wrong idea or tries to pin me down to anything because I don't like limits. All right. Um, oh, the other thing about like hip dysphoria is that I started, well, it didn't really start. I just like when I do workouts, I will kind of like do ones that are more focused on like upper body related things. I think I'm going to talk about that a little bit later more, but yeah, I do a little bit, try to do a little bit more of upper body related things. I don't like try to do like weighted squats or anything like that. Yeah, I've done plenty of those for my life, and have like real thick, yeah, really thick legs. And yeah, it's, a blessing and a curse, I guess. Um, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I don't really do anything really else about it. Like I don't dress much to avoid like the appearance of my hips. I think my hips do give me away, and I think my hips combined with my longer hair in this kind of an area as well. In other areas, I think that people are more used to people having like longer hair and like not assuming gender based on the length of your hair. But here, I feel like it's very cut and dry. All right. Okay. Other thing is, I think it was right about the time that yeah, right about the time that I got top surgery, I started packing. I didn't necessarily have bottom dysphoria per se. Um, I more was like curious about like packing, and so I did, and it was awesome, and really enjoyed it. And then it more kind of became like when I didn't pack, it just felt like weird because I did it like all the time, um, and I felt more comfortable and nice with it on or whatever. And it's been pretty good. I have like so in terms of like bottom dysphoria, I have some like a little bit of bottom dysphoria, and uh, it's definitely not like severe by any means. Like some people, obviously, if you're here, I'm talking about these topics. This is, very TMI. So if you don't want to hear about this stuff, then don't be here. But okay, so a lot of people, if they have bottom dysphoria, they won't like either touch like that area themselves or won't allow other people to touch the area at all. That's not something that really bothers me necessarily. Um, and yeah, there are parts of it, like I'll talk about like with bottom growth that make things great and like nice. Um, so those things are good in general. And I do have like goals in terms of like more transition related things. So bottom surgery is definitely a hope of something that I'd like to get, and not phalloplasty, just like metoidioplasty. Probably just like a very simple procedure like that. Um, yeah, I don't know how to spell metoidioplasty, but Google it if you want to learn more about it, because I'm not going to pull out a diagram in this live stream because there's plenty of other YouTubers who have. So go listen to them. All right. Oh, and another thing is like I haven't bought any Packers. Oh, I bought one. It was awful. Um, but I purchased another one that's gonna get here maybe in a couple, maybe a week or something. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Um, and that's that. I think I have one more dysphoria topic. Yeah, my last dysphoria topic. This is a new thing, y'all. This is hard. This is also what I get from my genetics. Strong beards, no face, no hair on the head. So I do notice. I feel like I'm okay. Fun fact: I have PCOS, so I've always probably had some type of testosterone, something going on in my body. So I've always had like a lot of facial hair, broader shoulders, other things that people would consider maybe more masculine or whatever. Um, Facial hair, things like that I like wasn't supposed to have. Um, anyway, so because of those things, oh, now I lost my train of thought. I had my hair, more facial hair and body hair, and all of those things. Why was I talking about my PCOS? I don't remember. This happens to me all the time, guys. It's so annoying. Um, oh, okay. PCOS. Yes, I remember. Oopsie. Sorry about that. So I have PCOS, and that means that um, even when, yeah, so even when I was just like pre-transition, I had like almost like a masculine type of receding pattern hairline moving on the backs of my uh here on the part on this part of my head. And I felt like I was noticing it get a little bit like more pronounced um at like maybe a couple months ago. And then in a picture I saw, like I compared the two pictures and I was like, definitely there's a difference. Um, and it is normal for your hairline to mature on testosterone. But I am freaking out a little bit about that. So I did get a derma roller, which is like a thing with like spikes on it. Um, and it like you roll it over the places, and you can also roll it over places on your beard, and that can help you fill in the spaces in your hair along with a medication called minoxidil. So I'm going to try both of those things and see if that helps topically, and then I'll continue to do that. My hair is like a very important thing to me. um, I am not too proud to like get a hair transplant if I need to in the future. Because yeah, my hair is, like I said, it feels very, it's very like part of my identity. I would feel very devastated if I lost my hair. Um, and also I could change my mind in the future, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, so that is definitely a thing that people talk about. People, it happens to people. So watch out, friends. Um, but yeah, if you see like all the men in my family, like yeah, just slowly starts to go, and there it is. All right, next we're going to talk about the positive changes that have happened over the past year, and I keep flashing these because I got new tattoos for the first time, everyone, and I'm very excited. Um, yeah, I feel very happy about them, and I very excited to do these things. Felt like a rebel because you always get told not to, in the Christian, as a Christian you get told not to do the tattoo stuff, but I'm on that heathen shit sometimes. So thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm welcome, and thank you. But I feel really excited, and hopefully I get more very soon. Um, it did hurt though. Hurt a lot more than I thought it would. This one did not hurt that much. This one hurt a lot more. And the worst part, y'all, I think you might be able to see. I ripped out. Taking off the tape was the worst part. I like ripped off a chunk of my hair. It was awful. Um, yeah. So the ripping off the tape was worse than both of the tattoos combined. No, I'm being dead serious. Okay. It took like 10 minutes each. That's why. Probably less. Okay. So positive changes. My body has definitely changed. Like the shape of my body has changed um, a lot, quite a bit. My wife talks about it a lot. And so sometimes she'll see things that I won't see. So, yeah, so my body has definitely changed quite a bit. And that's pretty great. I did talk about having some hip dysphoria, but it does feel like it's getting better a little bit. So that feels really exciting. It makes me feel good about myself. Um, and yeah, the more you grow your shoulders, you give the illusion of this, the male shape or whatever. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. I know there are options like people get body body masculinization procedures, but I hope that with just getting a little bit jacked, that can work. I also have to do the thing where I put the effort into getting muscle, which is like hard. I hate sweating, everyone. It's awful. So, but also things like another benefit is that it's generally easier for me to gain muscle. I like did like I worked okay, literally I over like a couple of weeks I probably like lifted weights on my chest like 6 times, and like my like noticed the difference in like the way like my chest definition. I was like, this is pretty easy. Like I don't have to put a ton of effort into it, just to put effort into it. And like eat more food, which is also a thing that can be difficult just when it comes to building muscle. I hear that's what I hear. I hear that a lot of times the hardest thing is to get people to eat more. And I also think it's harder for this is just my own. I don't know about harder. I do know there are difficulties for people who are FTM because I think that we are so used to like being told to shrink and like get smaller and take up less space that we think like, okay, if we're gonna work out and get fit, we need to like not eat anymore. I think that's just because like one of the ways we're conditioned. Um, but yeah, learning that like no, like if you want to like get fit and get big, like you need to eat lots of food. So that's a bonus for you all there. Another, while I'm on this, I used to work with eating disorders quite a lot, and a lot of times several trans folks come in, and oftentimes they mention things like uh, not eating in order to like give themselves a more androgynous appearance. Um, but a better way to do it is to like eat more and lift and work out and build muscle. Um, period. All right, so other things is like my facial structure has changed. I mentioned that earlier. Like I was gonna like pull up some pictures of myself, but I didn't have time. But like my face was so tiny, and I felt like yeah, I had such a tiny little face, and it was adorable, but um, super girly. So that's changed quite a bit. I feel like my chin's gotten a little bit wider. My neck is thicker, obviously. Um, I have like Adam's apple type thing now, which I love so much. I think it's so cool. If sometimes like in meetings, I'll just like do that because people don't notice. I'm on like FaceTime a lot, but I do that because I think it's cool. Anyway, other things that are cool. My wife said my hands have grown, so like I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't like measure them. So this is kind of just like she feels like they've grown. They might not have, but she thinks that they have. I don't really know. I don't like it's not like I put on like it's not like shoe sizes. Like I don't put on like different gloves. Like I don't like notice that type of a thing. But she says that, so I trust her opinion. Obviously, another thing is the bottom growth arena is going great, very well. Um, always interested in additions in that arena. I do like to talk about pumping, which is a common thing for transmasc folks to do. And if you don't know what pumping is, go on Reddit and look it up. There's also a subreddit, and it's called r/grow your T dick. Um, so if you're interested in like actually looking up resources for this kind of a thing, or even looking up resources for things like topical testosterone, that's a good resource. A good spot to get some of that information. Other things is like obviously hair. The hair situation has happened a lot more. um, yeah, like everywhere. My chest is a lot hairier. I really do like my chest hair. And facial hair, like I said earlier, has been also growing and has been fun, and great. I really liked that quite a bit. Um, all right. And there are a couple of things that I feel like I'm still waiting on, things that, haven't quite happened yet. I'm obviously still waiting for my voice to drop a little bit more. I obviously don't know how much, but yes, we'll see how that goes. Hi, Halvis. I see that you just came in. And also, I've noticed some of like my body fat has some of my body fat has redistributed, but not all of it. Like I feel like there might still be some more changes. I don't know what to expect. Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty curvy person. I've always been. So I don't know how much testosterone is going to change that. I'm more going to be focusing on kind of like building up my shoulders and stuff to kind of build the illusion of the triangle shape. rather than kind of like worrying too much about that. But we'll see. And another thing is like I'm waiting for this part of my beard to fill in. I feel like it's like you can tell like it's not as thick as the sides of it. So patchiness is normal um, for a lot of people. And I remember feeling insecure about it, and then I just like Googled patchy beards, and like every person, lots of bearded people have patchy beards. Okay, so that made me feel more secure about myself. Um, but yeah, I liked that quite a bit. I mentioned also earlier that because my hairline is receding a little bit and I'm going to be using the roller device thing, I'm probably also going to try that here to see if that helps with this area. I don't want to like, I don't want to like grow a ton of facial hair, so I'm not going to like force it on the cheek area or anywhere else. I just want this little part to fill in. Um, okay, so no, really, what does that mean? Is your butt smaller or your hips? Where did the fat go? Great question. So you can look at like a picture of what, so basically you have to think about the impact of testosterone and estrogen on the body. So like when a body that is under the influence of estrogen will like hip collect fat in the lower part of the hips and thighs and butt area. Um, and on a person who is testosterone dominant, it will like excess fat will just go to like the gut area. Like if you think of a typical beard gut guy, like that image type of a thing, that's where the fat would go. So that's where it goes to my belly-ish area. I don't necessarily like some I'm definitely like my body is wider also everywhere. Um, so I'm sure some of that is muscle related. I don't know all of exactly what is going on. But that's what I believe is happening. Probably what's happening is more of the fat is moving towards my belly-ish area rather than like the sides of my hips. I don't know for a fact if they're smaller. I think it looks a little bit smaller than it did. But that's just my opinion. And like it's other things like even like posing for pictures, like I would if I was like trying to like make my butt look curvy, I would like pose in a certain way. So like sometimes if I looked at pictures, I would look curvier, but that might have just because oops, that might have just been because of how I was posing. So yeah, that's just my anecdotal experience, but it does happen. Um, it does happen on its own. If it doesn't happen on its own, people sometimes opt for body masculinization procedures. Um, but yeah, that's. I hope that answers your question. And that's my semi-educated answer. I'm not an expert, so please fact check me on Google. Okay, and all right. Okay, so some other things that have happened this past year have been like I've had some gender identity shifts throughout during this year. Um, so I guess my first year of transition, medical transition at least, I felt super comfortable in just the ambiguous land of like non-binary. That felt fine enough for me, and still does feel fine. Oh, I don't have like any other lighting on today. That's another reason why I might look less great. Hold on. That is not plugged in. Never mind. So we just have that light. So that's better than nothing. All right. Um, cool. So some gender identity stuff has shifted during this year. So pretty much, I mentioned earlier that after top surgery, I was like very like hypercritical of myself for several reasons. And so it caused me to do very much kind of like a lot of analysis on my gender. I don't know if it was necessary or I think it was just um, prompted by my anxiety at the time. But it caused me to do some reflection and I came out with some answers. So that was what happened. Yeah, so I, like I said, kind of went in feeling pretty good about like the generic non-binary thing. But then um yeah, just was like presented just more with kind of like the understanding of gender and like how I conceptualized everything, and ended up figuring out that like I really did resonate a lot with like the agender label, just feeling kind of like an entity rather than like a specific gender or anything like that. Yeah, like gender's just this thing. It's like gender's this thing that like I am like playing along with and like seeing what feels good and like how like what feels right for me in my body and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, if these like attributes were deviated from gender, I feel like that would be pretty cool. Like for example, like it didn't matter like what sex you were, like you could just like do things and like people would be like, okay, you're doing that thing, great. Yeah. But I know things aren't that simple, and I hope that makes sense. It made sense in my head. I don't know if it did out loud. Okay. So I felt more comfortable like in the agender type of zone. But at the same time, I feel like fluid, and I feel like I'm a shifting person. So I guess sometimes like sometimes resonate more with the like feminine-ish energy, sometimes more of like a masculine type of energy or something like that. So yeah, those are labels that kind of like feel like, okay, yeah, that sounds right for me. Yeah, I'm not like married to them by any means, but I feel like maybe they do well to describe my experience. Yeah, cool. I'm glad it makes sense. But yeah, yeah, this stuff is just, and I think I have that in my notes later. It's just whatever. Like it's just at the end of the day, it's just gender. It's not stupid, but sometimes it feels stupid. I hope that's not like a bad thing to say. Sometimes gender feels stupid. Um, okay. So yeah, and then another thing is, oh, before that, I hope that your day gets better. This person. Okay. And Hollis says, for myself, I feel annoyed at being mistaken for a woman, but I am willing to be mistaken by a man by people who don't know me. That's it. That is exactly how I feel. Yeah. So it still feels kind of like not accurate to be like described as a like as a man or something like that. But it feels better than being seen as a woman. That's for sure. And I'm sure that has to do with like my life or something like that, you know, being assigned female at birth or something like that. And so that's annoying. Okay. Um, but yeah, that's the other thing is I did have a period of time where I felt kind of like re- like uncomfortable being perceived as a man or whatever, but I've very much like I feel like very much comfortable with that, like being externally perceived as such. That like doesn't bother me at all. He, him, people calling me that like doesn't bother me by any means. I'll talk more about pronouns later. But yeah, it's feeling much better to do that. I will be honest though, I do feel very weird like trying to pass. It feels kind of like just playing the game of gender. Like I think I said that before. Like I'm playing this game, like trying to like fit in and like do this thing, like make sense as a like a man in this Western society or whatever that means. I hope that makes sense to y'all, but that's kind of whatever. And would I Trinitera maybe? Um, would I uh, would I call myself a demi boy? Like, I think maybe that could be a word that maybe describes someone in my experience. I've never used the word really to describe myself very much. Um, but yeah, I hope that answers the question. I've never used it, but I could see how it might describe my identity in some ways. I hope maybe that probably is the best way to put it. Um, and hey, Dragon's gonna test the waters and counter their face at work if I get my ass beat. Hey, I tried and failed. never again. I hope that it goes okay, and I know that that'd be pretty scary to do. Um, I think being out at work can have a lot of different possibilities. You can have a space where you're like around a lot of people who are really supportive, and things like that. But who knows? Um, okay, and I don't know what the PFP means, dragon. So let me know. Okay. Um, yeah, and so okay. So another thing I mentioned that so in identity, I feel like I said more like gender fluid or whatever, but not very like super masculine in terms of presentation. Um, I do feel like I said, like at home in private, like I'm way more open with like experimenting with very like with feminine things, um, and stuff like that. It's just like not a thing that I would like want to do in public. Um, I also like am starting to try to kind of be more comfortable with um, doing some slightly feminine things in public, but I think I also have that on a thing that I'll talk about a little bit more later as well. Anyway, oh, no, that is something I'm supposed to talk about now. Yeah, so I'm learning how to get comfortable with more feminine things, um, even uh, like little things like this, nail polish, um, like like more dang. I have these like cute. I wore them in another video. These earways that are super dangly, like things like that. Um, yeah, those make me feel nice. It's hard to find like clothes that I enjoy and like that are like make me feel like excited. A lot of them are just like, cool, this is fine. Like this is like a like fine, but not like I'm like really excited to put this on or whatever. But yeah, I hate I just hate politics in general. There's like man, but I hate them all, especially in Dutch. You know, I'm sure that like I'm sure it's frustrating to get shattered in one language and really frustrating to get in another language as well. Um, yeah, and like enjoys dressing in feminine clothes, but right now it's usually too uncomfortable. So I'm hoping that it'll be more comfortable for me after I get more masculine. Yeah, that's definitely how I was feeling before. And now at this place, I'm like, okay, I look more masculine, and I'm still feeling uncomfortable in super feminine clothing. Um, yeah, there was this one particular shirt that was still I really did love before suit, um, but I tried it on like post-op surgery and like hated the way it looked on my body. Um, but I could like turn it into like a crop top or something, maybe I would wear it. But also like I also feel uncomfortable in crop tops. So, you know, oh, my sound is lagging, so I hope I'm not sure why that is. Um, I hope that it gets better because I'm not doing anything different. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I can tell Dragon you're having a tough time at work, and yeah, your manager for 2 months corrected herself and was like, "Oh, now you care." Joked and yelled. I sprained my pronouns. That's crazy. I didn't. And Hollis, you just said it fixed it, and I didn't do anything. So I don't know. Okay. All right. So I want to talk a little bit now about some of my current struggles that I've been facing recently in my transition. So one of the first ones is like imposter syndrome is a big one that I've been feeling. Generally, the experience of like not feeling trans enough. Um, it's And it's funny because I sent a message to a friend of mine, um, who, like, 'cause I think started their transition maybe like a little bit after I did, or at least their medical transition. I'm not sure about the other part of it. Um, and They were like, "Wow, it's interesting that you feel like you've like been on testosterone for a longer time than me, and you've had top surgery already, and like you still sometimes feel like uncomfortable about things." And yeah, like, and I mentioned before, I'm a super sensitive, critical, hyper critical person about almost everything. I hyper analyze everything all the time, which is exhausting, but it's like the way my brain works. Um, so yeah, I'm like twitching my eye because it's like it does kind of drive me crazy. But yeah, that means I'm like constantly evaluating myself. I also know that like it's a part of, I'm not even sure exactly what, but I have like I have like tons of like mental health stuff things going on. So I definitely have some type of like an obsessive compulsive loop that happens in my head. Like if I have if I see some type of like transphobic content, especially, I'll like need to like check myself like several times before I like feel comfortable or like settled in or something like that. Um, but yeah, I'm in therapy, so we're working on it. But yeah, if you're here, like it's not like, gender dysphoria, is a tricky thing. And I think, I know a lot of people like don't want to medicalize the experience of gender dysphoria, but um, it is like a condition, and it does need treatment. Um, like gender affirming care wouldn't exist if it wasn't a condition that needed treatment. So like that's really important. Um, yeah, it's important to like yeah to realize that it's not just about the medical aspect of transitioning. There's the psychological aspect as well, and the social aspect and the community aspect as well. Like having a community of people that support you is really important. Having a team of medical professionals that support you and advocate for you is really important. And not everybody has access to that, and that's really crappy because those are things I think that are important in like the holistic treatment to help trans people like live fuller lives. Yeah, and that's yeah, it's frustrating that a lot of people don't get that. Um, Try again every day. I'm closer to chopping my tits off and stir frying them into a nice green pepper and rice dish. I know that feeling. Yep, I get that. I hope that you know this or top surgery is something that you can get access to. And Hala says, at least you're on TM pre everything, and the social transition is hard to justify, especially since I'm much older. So I feel you. And yeah, like, and that's the thing. Sometimes I feel like that too. Like I'm on testosterone, and I should feel better. But it's also important to remember, like, for me to remember, not to be judgmental of my experience. I am where I'm at, and comparing myself to others isn't necessarily helpful. But yeah, social transition, pre testosterone, like it's weird. It felt weird and it was uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And I know also from people that are non-binary, and maybe they pursue a non-typical transition. For example, they'll like get top surgery but won't do hormone replacement therapy, um, or will get a hysterectomy. Or something like that. And that might be their only step of a gender related care that they're interested in. All the other parts of their body they don't get dysphoric from. Or they get bottom surgery and not top surgery, right? So, like, for example, these are all maybe like, according to society standards of the binary man and woman, they could be atypical transitions or something like that. Um, Society will be like, oh, well, you are different than the normal trans person or the binary trans person. So I don't know what I think about you. And a lot of this shit comes from, in my opinion, like this like ambiphobia that is in society. And Yeah, this was a little bit later in my notes, but I'm gonna kind of slip into my envy phobia topic now. And I also see this note, which is Wendy says, with the transphobic stuff, I feel the same way. It's nuts. It's always good to take a step back and affirm yourself. That's a good technique. Yeah. Yeah, affirming myself is definitely a good technique. Sometimes it gets a little bit like obsessive, where then that's the problem for me. Like reassuring myself is great, but like the panic associated with it is less pleasant for sure. So yeah, and I can see you're having to justify your desires to the medical community, and that's upsetting. And I know for a fact, like I mentioned, the type of bottom surgery that I want from the one other trans person that I know who got it in one video that he made. He said that like the doctor was a little bit like hesitant because, and there is good reason. Apparently, that kind. I'm not sure why, but like there can be more. Okay, there can be physical barriers as well, but there also can be medical barriers. So if you're one of those people who are trying to get top surgery without testosterone, I hear all the time that some people have challenges with it. Like when I go on like the top surgery subreddit or something, and yeah, there needs to be ways for people for the medical community to allow space for people with for non-binary transitions in general. Yeah, another example is for if a person wants to like get a breast reduction, a gender affirming breast reduction rather than like top surgery entirely. And some people might be like, oh, well, your insurance isn't going to cover it as top surgery, so it's going to do it as like a medical reason. But since it's only for medical reason, like we're not going to cover all the other stuff. Like it's so frustrating. And I don't. And Hollis, like I'm not sure what it's like for you in I think you said the Netherlands, and I'm sure there has to be. Yeah, there might be difficulties or changes. I mean, I'm not sure what like the process is there. Because it could be I'm not like England where there's like free healthcare, but it like takes forever to get access to stuff, and there's like maybe more chance of denial, and maybe private care is really hard to access. But yeah, there's tons of reasons that can be frustrating. And yeah, so Hollis or Trinitera, I really hope I'm saying it right. Trinitera, I'm just bad at reading. Okay, that's actually something that I'm also afraid of because it feels harder to explain than just transitioning to the opposite sex. Yeah, I hate it. It's annoying. All right. Oh, cool. Hollis is waiting for your intake appointment. Yeah, that's great, and I'm glad that you have people. I'm sure if they're also like a gender clinic that they'll be understanding. But one of the things about this and yeah, bringing up kind of the aspect of how people have resistance or hesitancy towards people transitioning to the opposite sex or not transitioning fully to the opposite sex. What really gets me, guys, is is when it comes from other trans people. Like that it really messes with my head. Like really, really messes with my head. It makes me really frustrated. And one of the reasons why it messes with my head is because I have like I just have my weird ways of perceiving the world, I think. And also a lot of trauma around being wrong. Which is also why I can like there's so many areas of my life where I try to be very peculiar about like what I'm learning and learning new ways to verify information. That's why like understanding how to think and like critical thinking and learning that skill has been really important to me because I didn't know it for such a long time that I would like believe a lot of really harmful things. Now that I know how to critically think, I'm better at this. And I can kind of like point out false arguments when I'm kind of listening to people talk. So yeah, I watched this video of a trans person just talking about non-binary people. Why do I do this to myself? Good question. I just like I do like to hear from other people's perspective. It's what I do all the time. Um, but when it comes to gender related stuff, it can put me in a weird headspace if I'm not careful. But yeah, this trans person, this trans guy specifically, was talking about non-binary people and how non-binary people. I don't know. Actually, I don't think I listened to that much of the video. But basically, um, it seems weird to other people that like non-binary is a thing. They just don't agree with it. It's like you're imposing. I think a lot of the argument is that like non for society to embrace non-binary identity, uh, society would have to make room for us as non-binary people. There would have to be structural change that went on, like because we live in a society where like the government plays a big part in our lives and things like that, and a lot of things like accessing medicine and the post office and like places where our name is written and things like that. We have to go through this legal system, right? So like our private identities are like our sacred selves. We have to kind of expose them and say like, hey government, I need you to freaking affirm my identity so I can have rights like everybody else. That's basically what we're saying. You know what I mean? And for other trans people to come out and be like, cool, we want rights, we want all those rights, but just not for them, like not for the people who don't transition in the way that makes sense for us. Like someone has to please help that make sense to me. I don't get it. I obviously I understand why people say those things, and um, my opinion is partially that I think that people, I think that people, some trans people want to be accepted by the greater cis community or whatever, um, and have acceptance from them. And sometimes when you like yeah, when you can even like separate your group from other people, like, yeah, we're not like those trans people. We're like these kinds of trans people. We're the better kind of the trans people. We're not like those crazy non-binary people who are making stuff up and trying to change your world. We're the good kind of trans people that are just trying to quietly become stealth and slip into society, be quiet about their transness, not bring it up, not ask for much. End of story. Um, that's not enough for me. Like, I would like to have some of those basic rights as well. And yeah, not be like discriminated against and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, apparently that's asking for a lot here. Um, yeah, I feel like it feels very, very far away. Like for example, like us as black people, like we in America, we're not slaves anymore. Hooray. But like, and like for example, we're allowed to sit anywhere we want to on the bus, but like it doesn't mean that like people are gonna like make us feel comfortable doing it. It doesn't mean that people are going to like it very much or make you feel welcome, or something like that. So yeah, um, this feels like a very long battle, a long journey. Um, and it's exhausting. Sometimes I feel like we've made it a long way, and I feel happy for the next generation of like kids who do drag and like feel so expressive and like feel safe to be who they are at a young age. Like that blows my mind. It makes me feel so like happy from like the inside out. But then to see like the vitriol that like people have towards kids who play with gender, calling them like awful things, like calling their parents awful things, and yeah, it's bad. Obviously, if you watch, the Grammys or whatever, Sam Smith, even before the Grammys, has been getting like obliterated in the media for like expressing their femininity. Like, I, it's stupid, but obviously this is where we're at. Um, so, like I mentioned before, that I have some areas where I don't feel like super like I'm working on my critical thinking, right? So I do have times where I get susceptible to those like ways of thinking. And what typically happens is it can kind of like mess with my head and like fuck with my mood for a couple of days afterwards. So I try to avoid like consuming content like that. But sometimes I'm doing research for some particular reason or like some obscure like a rabbit hole that I'm falling down. Um, yeah. Um, and thanks, Mars. I appreciate the compliment. And Hala says, that's what I'm struggling with too. I'm never going to be a cis man, but do I even want that? And plus, what that is not what I was when I was a child. So I decide what kind of man I want to be. I definitely resonate with that. Um, yeah, and I see what you mean. Like, yeah, being rather like male or whatever. Yeah, like I think about that a lot, and I guess fantasize about that a lot, like what life would be like if that was what things were like, or um, and yeah, it obviously that would change so much of who I am as a person. Um, and I've heard, I don't know how people feel about this, but I heard some like it was like a TikTok or something. Someone said like it wouldn't have mattered like what sex you were born as, like your brain is like you're like a trans person, like so it didn't really matter what your sex was, you would always be trans. I'm not sure if that like it wasn't like a researcher or scientist saying that, but in an anecdotal sense, yeah, I can see that. Sometimes I've thought about that. I've thought about if I was born as, an assigned male at birth or whatever, I feel like I would still be like non-binary, androgynous, or I would still be, trying to do this thing. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what that even means. It's just, yeah, it's something about this journey, this experience of having two worlds that feels unique and a part of like what has shaped me as a person to be who I am. Um, Also, as a person who didn't like, I don't have the story of being the like 5-year-old kid being like, or at least I don't have any of these memories. If it happened, my parents never told me about it. Um, I have one obscure memory of like wanting facial hair or like wanting to shave as a child. Um, but that's pretty much it. So I didn't really have like, I always knew I was a boy in my heart secretly and whatever. It was just kind of was like I was this person and like things were kind of fine. And I was like, okay, like feels kind of weird. And I know that things aren't exactly right, but like whatever. And also there's like lots of religious influence. So like I was like, this is who I'm supposed to be, I guess. And when I figured out like that non-binary was a thing, I was like, yeah, that is exactly it. And I was an adult at the time. Like I knew I was an adult. I had kind of gotten out of the religious stuff. I was really starting to kind of understand who I was. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I know who I am enough to know that that's me. I know what that would mean and the implications of all of those things. But I knew it was right. I knew that it was who I am. Yeah, and that was enough for me. But yeah, like anyway, sometimes I have grievances about like not having um, maybe like male anatomy is a way to put it or something like that. Like I mentioned, my bottom dysphoria and stuff like that. I think about those things sometimes, and like, but you're correct. I also have this freedom, honestly, to kind of discover what type of dude I want to be. Like I, don't exactly resonate with like it's like I feel, oh crap, sorry. I feel like a man, like a hey man kind of a man, not like a cis man male type of man. I hope that makes sense. But whatever. And all right. I started to feel more, this is Mara saying, I started to feel more comfortable in my skin once starting tea. but I get more hate now than before. I feel like when your confidence shows, people hate that. That is exactly right. I don't know what it is. Like as soon as you start like being comfortable with yourself, people like hate it. They abhor it so much. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's about. And I think most of like I don't get a lot of hatred like in public or anything like that, but like I get like online stuff that pops up every now and again. And yeah, like especially with top surgery, y'all, people fucking hate. They hate when I don't know why they. Well, I do know why. It's because there's like this fear mongering now about like your little girls are gonna run away and get their ovaries cut out and their tits chopped off, irreversible damage. Like there's all of this fear mongering that's going on right now. But yeah, the type of like online hate I got for that on this one, I did this one interview and like it was well, I couldn't even look at any of the comments. It was like a nightmare. It was awful. But yeah, I hate it. I am not a fan of that type of stuff. And yeah, because it and at the same time, like it's like sometimes because I don't always feel confident, but like it feels more like kind of like me showing my true self to the world. Like that's what I feel like I'm doing. Like it was this private thing that I kept to myself, but then I was like, I would like it to be like I would kind of like to wear my heart on my sleeve, so to speak, and let people see who I am. And then people are like, I hate it. And you gotta just be like, whatever. Like that sucks. But it has shown me that you're doing something right. Um, for example, I was talking to my wife yesterday about me being a person with dreads, like a black person with dreads, and how I know that impacts my perception. And the reason why I know that is because my black Haitian parents judged people with dreads so much. I don't even know why. I just know that they judged it a lot and they hated it so much. Because they knew that like oftentimes it like had some type of like political meaning to it or whatever. That's probably why. Um, but yeah, so I know if my black parents have judgments towards other black people with dreads, um, then white people and other people are going to have judgment towards people with dreads. So like me being, a locked up person or whatever, like if a person is gonna look at me and judge me for that, like I know that's not a person that I want in my aura. I don't want them in taking up space in my energy. If they look at me and say like, "Oh, that person's weird. They have stretched ears and like facial piercings and now my motherfucker's got tattoos now." So I think I'm all that. Just got these yesterday. Anyway, yeah, person with pure facial piercings and tattoos. Oh, I want to be around that person. Whatever. That masculine person is wearing nail polish and a choker and dangly earrings. Oh no, like then I don't want to be around that. Then like if you can't see past the shallowness of like clothing and the way a person decorates their body, then I have no interest in developing like a close relationship with you, right? I'm just not interested in that. Period. So I'm learning that this is a hard thing. This is not easy to do. And I'm talking now and I probably sound confident, but I'm scared as fuck, y'all. And this is not easy. I'm not perfect. I hide way more often than I feel like I should, right? I try to blend into the crowd and whatever. And like that's fine. You can do whatever you want. There's no wrong way to do this. Not everybody has to be like where like waving the rainbow flag all the time and like be like accept yourself. Like you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just be yourself in your heart and like know that you're yourself and that can be enough. And if you choose to share that with other people or choose to express yourself in a way that makes you stand out from the crowd, cool. That's also fun. You're welcome. I hope that works for some people as a mission statement. Being out as a non-binary person makes me feel so much more vulnerable and sensitive to how people treat me. I feel way more confident about myself though. Me too. I hate. Sometimes, and I wonder if anyone else feels this way, but I feel like since I conceptualize myself as trans, I think about gender much more, and it annoys me how much I think about gender now. Like I wish that I could just like go out and not think about how people perceive me, but it's something that I think about quite often now as a person beginning transition. Um, so yeah, I don't know if other people feel that way, but it does kind of annoy me. I feel like, oh, whatever. Like I feel insecure if like I said, if I shave my face and I have a baby face, I feel insecure and I hate that. I just wish that I could feel, I don't know, less influenced by the way people perceive me. Um, but like I said, I'm a sensitive person. I care about my appearance. I care about how people perceive me. That doesn't make me a bad person. It's just something that is a part of me, and that's okay. Um, oh, I just took way too big of a gulp of that tea. I almost choked myself. Okay. Oh wow, that was really loud. And my dog is sitting behind me, and usually he freaks out at noises like that. So thank goodness he didn't. Okay, so um, and the other thing, y'all, pronouns, I wanted to mention this is I use they them pronouns, right? I've have pretty much most of my transition. Um, but I've been thinking, like, I feel okay with people using he, him pronouns for me. And I do, and it feels sometimes kind of nice. I think mostly because it's not she, her, but I'm not sure. Um, but sometimes it feels like I would just use he, him pronouns or he, they pronouns for like convenience. And that feels weird. I'm not sure if I want to do that. But and then at the same time, like, I don't know, like, what does it mean if I say, like, I'm not going to conform and use he, him pronouns? Like, is that me making non binary a political identity? I don't know. I don't know. But I think about this stuff all the time. You know, I feel like my pronouns are kind of, they're just mine. I don't really like if I'm meeting a stranger and I'm like, hey, my pronouns are they, them. It's kind of like if someone asks or if it feels necessary for me to bring it up, I will. Um, or I won't, and I'll be scared, and my wife will do it for me because she's really nice and she's brave. But sometimes I'm scared. But yeah, that's honest talk. So I hope this shows you what it's like. And yeah, I don't want to like show myself as like a weird fake person who like is always super confident, and always corrects people when they misgender me. I don't, and I sometimes am just exhausted. And it's like I literally have seen you like 3 times in my life, and I'm probably gonna see you like 3 more times in my entire life, and like do not care enough to like waste my energy to do that. So whatever. Um, yeah, and then the other thing is like, yeah, I just feel like this stuff doesn't matter. Like I'm really happy with who I am as a person. So I don't care what other people think. um, okay, let me rephrase that. I do care what other people think about me. And it impacts my behavior oftentimes. But I'm moving it more towards a space where I am using that less as a thing that influences my behavior, I guess. Where I still might have concerns, but I will try not to let it impact the way that I behave. That is a more honest way of putting that. That people do impact me, do impact the way that I view myself, um, and I don't think that's bad to be honest about. But I have to know that like I also like have a choice to say like this is who I am. I know who I am, and I would like to show myself, as myself, and not like a hidden like half authentic part of myself. Wendy says, if someone doesn't appreciate all of you, they really don't appreciate you, and I agree with that so much. I've had to let go of tons of people, even like people in my family that like didn't appreciate all of me, and I was like, cool. I don't like to be around this, so I'm not gonna do it. All right. So Hall says, at this point in my journey, I don't feel like I have to make a thing about being NB to acquaintances or service personnel. To my friends and people who I interact regularly, then same here. Um, yeah, and that's the other thing that makes me so annoyed is like people um, in like the online right space will say things like, "You can't force your pronouns to me," and like a lot of people just like would just want to be left alone and want to just live their life. Some people do, want to be like wanted to be gendered correctly, even by service personnel, and that's fine. Um, but yeah, thanks for coming and stopping by, Mars. Photo shoot, hope that goes well. Nice chatting with everyone. We definitely need more visibility as non-conforming, gender fluid. Thank you so much. Catch you later. Great having you. But yeah, definitely we love to have lots more of this non-binary visibility and stuff like this. Um, uh, oh, cool. Really quick, y'all. My wife got home and she doesn't have a key. So I will be back in 2 minutes. Okay, hold on. I don't know where the other one is, but the other one's on the keychain. Okay, thank you for waiting. Okay, my wife was volunteering because she's cool like that, and she volunteers with wildlife animals. Someone else said something. Oh, I love where is this? I love a supportive. Oh, we love a supportive wife. Generally, I hope I get a wife who has my back. Like this too one day. It feels so nice when the people close to you affirm your gender and defend you to unaccepting people. Yeah. Y'all, like, my wife rocks like so hard. It's like ridiculous. Um, so many things have changed in our relationship, and she's been like super awesome. And she's changed a lot in our relationship too, which has been super cool. One thing that I didn't mention earlier, I'm catching my breath, y'all, because I just has ran really fast to get back here. Um, but yeah, there were some different things that have changed. Different things that have changed since top surgery for me. With like different there's like numbness and hypersensitivity in my chest and like weird sensations there. So that makes like intimacy a different experience. Like I don't have like hyper like they call it like erotic sensation like in the nipple anymore. So that like changes the experience um a little bit. And so like we've had to like figure out how to do things differently. And that's like an important thing. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. So I think that's important to mention and bring up. Um, Oh, and another thing is my wife has also kind of like been, a pretty standard lesbian like her whole life. Um, and is kind of I'm not sure exactly where she's at right now, but like, you know, was kind of like, yeah, I don't really feel like the lesbian label really fits me anymore. I'm not sure if I resonate with that as much. Um, and I'm also like I'm open to her like labeling herself as a lesbian if she wants to. I really don't care. Um it doesn't impact my perception of myself. Um but yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, she's been like super helpful and has like been super great about all the changes and is open with me about different things that she's comfortable with or yeah, and yeah, she's been awesome. Okay. Um, so speaking of wives, does that mean you're gay? Bi? I'm surprised by how my gender transition seems to impact my sexuality category. I think that um, I think before labeled myself as kind of like bi-ish or something. Queer was a label that I used a lot. Never really felt like a lesbian for some reason. Well, I know now. Now I understand why. I never really felt like a lesbian. But yeah. Anyway. Um, but yeah, I still kind of identify as like queer or like pansexual. Like I just think people are attractive generally. I don't think my attraction really has changed much. Not, maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like maybe I don't know. Not really have a lot of uh, changes there. At least now that I'm super aware of. Um, Yeah, I totally understand not having nipples. Yeah, I feel like I never considered not having them. I just was just kind of depended on how it was gonna happen. But yeah, it's I think it's just cool that people get to have like different ways of, dealing or handling their body and everything. And also like nipple grafts can be weird. Like my nipple grafts sometimes like are a little bit weird. Like they don't feel like they used to feel, but they definitely feel different than like the rest of my chest area. So that's interesting. Um, cool. Let me see if. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that like the fact that like intimacy and stuff has changed, like has given me like a new opportunity to like understand my body more and like be more patient with myself and like with us as a couple and stuff like that. Um, and that's really cool. And also like another like TMI thing a little bit, but I think it's important. Like like sex has been great since like I've started transition. I think being confident in your body, being present and like grounded in your body, being like more comfortable with like the experience of pleasure and stuff like that, like all that stuff comes with like embodiment and like being willing to literally be like being inside of your body and feeling with your body, not being resistant to like sensations and stuff like that, not being resistant to like other things that are coming up in your head and like being afraid of yourself in certain ways. So yeah, this kind of freedom has helped in a lot of ways. Yes, things are different. Doesn't mean they're different in a bad way. Um, but yeah, it just means you're learning more. So I hope that's good. If you have questions, I'm here to answer them as well. Um, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that sometimes I did have uh, struggles. Like I mentioned imposter syndrome earlier, but another note about imposter syndrome was that like I would feel sometimes like my struggles would make me like less of a trans person. Like when I didn't have like a perfect experience after top surgery, I felt like really insecure with myself. And like I was doing something wrong or like wasn't trans enough or something like that. Um, I felt like I felt like my body like was on a different page than like my brain was at the same time. It was a frustrating period of time. Um, and yeah, it made me feel like super, super insecure for a while. But then I was able to be, um, when I'm like more compassionate towards myself and don't try to like make meaning out of things. Um, like having difficulty with my recovery from top surgery just means that I'm having difficulty with my recovery from a really traumatic surgery. Like it is like it's a really invasive surgery sorry, top surgery is a very invasive surgery. It's very traumatic to the body. So like for me to like, put pressure on myself for not having, like the perfect Instagram or TikTok experience that I had seen made me feel super insecure with my trans experience. Also, just comparing your experience to other people is sometimes can be a recipe for disaster. Seriously, uh, sometimes it can be helpful, like to notice exactly what's going on, but sometimes you don't know the things. I also lost my train of thought mid sentence, so I'm not sure what I was saying. Okay. Um, okay. So uh, Trin, I'm just going to shorten it to Trin. I hope that's okay because I keep messing it up. So Trin says, as a demi boy who likes women but hates the lesbian title, I will joke about being demi straight around my friends, but I don't even know if that's a real term. I use queer and straight though. That's funny. I do like that. That makes me giggle. And oh yeah, that's how Hollis says that's how I realized once I twig that cis people really like their bodies as they are. Um, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like now when I like look in the mirror and like it's so weird. Like, let's have real talk for a second. Like being able to like walk up to the mirror and like kind of like really soak in your full body, like without like disconnecting from any part of it is a really wild experience. And I didn't really realize how much I was doing that until after I got top surgery. Um, because yeah, I guess for so long of my life, I never really understood how uncomfortable my body actually made me because of how like disconnected from my body I was for a lot of reasons. So when I began to like inhabit my body a bit more and realize that I was uncomfortable, and like took steps to like help make myself more uncomfortable, I was like able to like be more present with myself in ways that I never ever thought possible. And that was crazy, super like super crazy, to just like look at the mirror and be like, cool, like nice, like this makes sense and feels right, and I'm happy. Um, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, it doesn't mean that I don't have insecurities and am like 100% pleased with my appearance all the time. Um, yeah, like self love isn't this. It's not this thing where um, self love is not this thing where you're like always perfect with yourself. Like you're always happy with yourself and you're always, rah about everything about yourself. Like for me, at least, self love is like this curious, um, like longing and desire to like know yourself more and like explore yourself more. And like it is self love is this constant opportunity to say like, well, like look at that new part of me that I haven't met. Like, how can I get to know this part of me more? How can I explore it? And then eventually, like, how can I embrace that part of me? How can I integrate that part of me into like this greater sense of who I am? So that it no longer feels like a separate aspect of myself. Um, so yeah, this is like deeper stuff, but obviously all of this stuff connects with gender identity. And me stepping into gender identity, like this journey has given me the access to like being in my body to be able to do the trauma work that I'm in right now. I'm doing EMDR right now, which is like super exciting. And yeah, being able to like process trauma, I feel way more able to do that now that I know who I am, feel more comfortable in my skin. I'm able to be more present in my body, like take up space inside of my body, occupy all these spaces in my body, so to speak. Yeah, this has become it's become much more effective, I would say. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I missed. Also, this is a great time for questions. If anyone has questions about gender identity or my journey or whatever, this is a good time to ask. Um, I lost my I lost my stress ball. Okay, well that's okay. I had two, but I there was a third one that I was has a different texture that I missed. So yeah. Hopefully. Okay. So yeah, if anyone has questions, this is a good time to say that. So yeah, another thing that I've had access to is the ability to like exercise more, and not exercise with the idea, uh, not exercise with the idea of um, like changing my body or shifting like the way that I look, but more like a curious type of like exploration of movement, like uh, seeing what it's like to move your body in different ways, exploring the different things and capacity that your body has to like do different things and stuff like that. Um, and that's been really fun. And yeah, one of the first times that I've ever, I don't know, felt this way about movement, which is cool. And yeah. It doesn't mean that I like don't have like aesthetic goals or something like that. Um, yeah, because like I said, I think my appearance is important to me. So, and I don't think that's super problematic. And like my eyes are like tearing up because I'm yawning. But yeah, maybe I need a nap or something. Okay. it feels pretty cool to start to feel a little bit more confident in who I am. And then also like, I don't know, I'm in this place where I'm like, all right, cool. Um, we've got the base set up, the base body. like if I'm customizing myself as like an avatar in a video game, like I've got the base structure down. That's cool. Next is like, my hair selection is good. you know, I'm working on things like earrings and more piercings and stuff like that, and maybe like dyeing my hair different colors and tattoos and like other ways of kind of like decorating my body because it's super awesome. I love expressing myself in this way. Um, and can't wait to do it like a ton more. Yeah. So yeah, my my wife is telling the artist like, you're gonna create a monster, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna turn into one. Um, but yeah, I'm living life for the sake of living and for exploring and seeing what's going on. And being in a body that feels safe enough to call home makes that possible. Um, makes that much more doable. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, like, yep, we are able to grow into ourselves, and it rules. It really does. I love this. It's so cool. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say for right now. I'm very glad that you were so interactive today and shared so much with me. I really didn't know if I didn't even think that this would take that long. I was like, oh, I'll probably just read this list off in like 20 minutes and be done. But I'm also a rambler, so I don't know why I thought that. And you guys were great enough to share this time with me. As usual, friends, check out the banner. I forgot to leave this up during the whole thing, but don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend if you find it's helpful for them, or if you are on any trans related stuff, you can share this content or my channel there. I also have other places. You can see my other places where I post content on other platforms. I'm at Mad Magic everywhere. And also, if you found any of this content beneficial, you can support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/madmagic. I'm following it with this thing if you're interested in that. And also, if you have other suggestions for the channel, other topics, um, I would love, love, love to hear more about them. And yeah, so let me know what's going on. And very cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, tomorrow will be my 2-year anniversary. I'm pretty excited. We'll see how much longer I stay on T. I'm not sure if it'll be forever. It kind of feels like it might be for a long time, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And thank you. I appreciate that. Have a great day. Hey there. Hope everyone has a great day. Yeah, make sure, like I said, I'm very serious about reaching out and chatting. I love talking to people. So, um, yeah, reach out. Love you guys. Hope you have a great day. Peace and love. I will definitely see you next time.